Hi, Kalpun Peace here. It is a fact that we create thought with our brains, as I repeat ad nauseum. But see, we are nothing but evolved, mutated primates, a product of evolution. 2 + 2 = 4, not 6. And we are all born without lacking knowledge or belief. In other words, we are all born atheists. We are composed of neurons, we are composed of cells, and we are composed of DNA and genes. And we are a product of random mutations over billions of years. People that believe in God and other delusions are simply schizotypal. They suffer from a neurological malfunction.
Genes of one animal would be very different from another. They were in for a shock. It turns out that when it comes to genes, we humans aren't that different from other species.
There you go, Christian.
Around 96% of our DNA is the same as chimpanzees. Around 75% of our genes are the same as dogs. And we share around 1/3 of our genes with daffodils. So if our DNA is so similar, why do Earth's creatures all look so different?
I sure feel sorry for Christians stuck in the 12th century, Middle Ages. Here are the facts. We are built out of cells. Our bodies are built out of cells. Random mutation. We have DNA and genes.
When this mutant came along, I realized 30 years ago, this was the thing to work on. And I knew then those were the genes to get. That those had some very, deep secrets about basic processes of laying out a body plan and controlling embryonic development.
This mutation led scientists to the identity of 8 master toolkit genes, called Hox genes. There are some 14,000 genes that go on to build a fly, but the process starts with the toolkit. These toolkit genes tell other genes where to put the head, the tail, all the limbs, and antennae. A problem in one of these genes during development can transform a creature into a catastrophe.
That alteration,
it happens to us.
The transformation of antennae to legs.
There you go, christ-psychotics.
When the normal gene is put in the wrong place.
Oh, so it's misplacing that part of the fly body
all
to a different
genes.
spot.
Exactly.
Product of evolution.
Okay, so these blocks that control different parts.
Thanks to advancement of science, we are the true God. We can control everything in the lab. And we actually make mutations, and we can make different creatures in the lab. Look at what happened.
Embryos of a fly, a mouse, an elephant, and a human. Despite how different they'll look as adults.
A similar kind of recipe underlies the development of bodies as different as those of sea anemones and humans.
It's just simply retarded to believe that life begins at conception and the embryo of a human is a human being. They're extremely retarded.
A version of the same recipe can build bodies that are so utterly different.
The finished product may vary. Fins, feathers, or fingers. But like distinctive cars, underneath the paint job, the genetic chassis is the same.
There you go, Christians. Learn. Sorry, infected with the God delusion. We are constructed out of genes, and we do have the genome. Oh God.
It's a new way to look at nature's bodybuilding.
Exactly.
As if there's a tool shop inside each of us, using a similar set of genes to make parts and appendages in very different organisms.
Genetic toolkits are like the Legos. And you could make a house out of Legos, or you could make a car out of Legos. You don't need a different type of Lego to make a car.
This new science is called
The discovery of a shared genetic toolkit points to a deep kinship between different species.
We are related.
New evidence for one of Darwin's most important ideas, the descent of all animals from a common ancestor.
The retards want you to believe that everything is created where it says in the Bible, there's hundreds of them. And there's an imaginary friend or intelligent designer that created everything. Totally retarded.
Expectation that we humans had the most genes. We had 100,000 genes. We would have genes that a lowly fruit fly or a sea squirt would know nothing about. But this is not true. All animals have a very similar set of basic genes.
And all animals. How did the toolkit get set in motion in the first place? From our present-day body design, we're headed to one of its earliest defining moments, when the toolkit was deployed in our earliest ancestor, a worm. The Earth has gone through a number of particularly intense bouts of creature making, but none as forceful as a time some 530 million years or so ago. It's known as the Cambrian explosion.
Then we have this retard living in the Middle Ages, spouting their
They know the divine mind. I think judgment on this world is going to come. It comes now. It comes in an eschatological way in the future, a result of sin and the rejection of God and His truth.
But don't statements like that.
God and His truth. Go see a neurologist. We're in the 21st century. We're not in the 12th. Sorry, man. You're sick.
A burst of animal forms appeared, the ancient ancestors of virtually all the animals that swim, fly, and crawl today.
Yes, the Cambrian explosion happened. There's evidence, retards. Evidence. Okay. Here, we're composed of DNA, and we're run
DNA to find out how toolkit genes played a role in expanding evolution's creativity.
So here's where creature making went crazy. With creatures like this. It doesn't look like... You start before the Cambrian, at about 600 million years ago, with creatures like this. It doesn't look like much. It's just a disc. Okay. By about 50 million years later, you find bodies of all kinds. Bodies with all different sorts of appendages, antennae and limbs and so forth.
The Cambrian was evolution's Big Bang. But toolkit genes were probably building simple organisms before the Cambrian. So, also, there may have been environmental causes. Ancient land masses were changing, expanding ecological niches for animals to differentiate. Perhaps a changing environment pushed the pre-existing genetic toolkit into high gear.
Pennsylvania.
Let's pray.
These are the evangelical voters, Republican presidential candidates.
Yes, completely retarded. They live in the Middle Ages.
Others like it.
Yeah, they live in the Middle Ages,
who
people.
Say they don't know much about the role faith plays in the life of John
McCain is completely
Honestly,
immediate.
I haven't gotten a good feel for him. I haven't. I mean, I've been to his website a
He's
few
psychotic.
times. I mean, I've been to his website
He's Unfortunately, these retards don't know about a toolkit and about genies inside their bodies that they create gods with their brains. Poor people. And these are all the ones that want to be president of this country. Belongs to a mental institution. Sorry, McCain and Palin.
Responsible for constantly replicating DNA do not do it with 100% precision. They're a little off. It's almost as if there's a built-in mechanism for change.
Everything evolves.
These random errors are the building blocks of new species. When the DNA changes, genes change, and animals change too.
We gladly suffer because we know that suffering helps us to endure.
Really?
And endurance builds.
Okay, get nailed every church, every Sunday. Why don't you put get nailed to a cross so you can suffer, retard?
This is a problem in the world today. Too many ignorant people. They rather go to church and go to get fed up with fairy tales and nonsense and lies instead of going to school and learning science and read other books instead of only one. This is a very example on these idiots here that in church and they talk nonsense. It's like somebody saying, "Are you talking shit?" And they sure are. Let's put them in mental institution when they belong. God doesn't exist. It's a product of our brains. Evolution.